Soliman from the Philippines, and I'm going to be presenting today about the Business Central Flash methodology. This one was created to really fit to our market, which is on the more on the micro and small businesses side in the Philippines, on how we do the dynamics implementation here or Business Central implementation here. So I'm running two companies today, two startup companies that does solutions also for Dynamics 365 and Business Central as well, and other open source application. So I'll start. Let me minimize this one. All right. So for me, the word flash is really meaning it's flash. It's speed, quick, and it's also more on the like if you know Flash, the superhero. As you can see on how he saves people, it's really speedy. But the problem with that is it's not that strong. Meaning there's no order or something like that. It's just fast and faster. Um, Methodology in terms of like building it, there is an order or there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 step. I might say waterfall or whatever project management methodology you want to call it. If you combine those things, then it would make really a good um, use case or case study to really do the project faster, but at the same time in order. So I just want you to frame that why we thought of that here in the Philippines. It's because of our economic landscape and also our geography. Here in the Philippines, the large company is just 0.48. As you can see in the graph, but by the way, I have a blog about this on LinkedIn. Um, the large portion of our companies or economies are really more on the micro, small, and medium businesses, and it gives job to our people. So that's why this is PH is really the market for Business Central. Um, Unfortunately, we've just launched Business Central last October or last year October 2019. It's because we've encountered some issue with the taxation and some sort of that, and we're working with Microsoft Philippines to, of course, accelerate our adoption. Well, Philippines is, of course, Dynamics Nav is very famous here also in the Philippines, and there's a lot of implementation here. But people waited for Business Central to because we know that Business Central will really give us this leverage in terms of cost and how fast we can implement and go to the level of QuickBooks Zero and other accounting system that are already present here in the Philippines and NetSuite as well or SAP Business One. Given that the challenge always here in the Philippines is always about money or the cost. It's always like this. That's why they so again my interview last time with MSDW or Microsoft Dynamics World is what is the problem why Philippines doesn't like adopt this technology quicker or faster. The problem is businesses here in the Philippines are not that quite treating technology or application or software as an expense but more sorry, not as an investment but more of an expense. So it's always like this. And it's also every small businesses here, you need to always do this trust. If of course you're not local, they don't trust you. Or if you're if you're sometimes if you're a Filipino, you're not a Singaporean, they don't trust you. So there are stigma that is really needed to be broken for us to be able to implement, of course, Business Central and other application here in the Philippines. So let's start. So the conceptualization of the flash method was really to solve two issues. It's the cost effectiveness, fast but sure. So again, as you can see here, I use the word sure, which is on the sure step methodology, but we just had some tweaking on the rapid project management methodology to for us to be able to really utilize that model. So we really need to be cost effective because at the end of the day, what's gonna be our differentiator between those on-premise application, or the perpetual licensing application, which like SAP or SAP Business One or other things, if we're not going to be cost effective, but licensing is resolved already in Business Central. It's very cheap nowadays, and that's why we just need to do is to really ensure our client that it's going to be faster to implement and they don't need to wait for like 6 months or 3 months or 2 months to have this distribution, or if you're a distribution company, a set up Business Central running on a standard capacity and serving their clients quickly. So why use flash method? For us to quickly respond to the client demands, because of course every client has demands, every industry has demand, and we really need to quickly respond on that. Meaning we don't need to like waste time on doing business process review again and again and again to understand what are those demands. So there's a lot of like solution to do that, and I'll later discuss that. Easy to understand approach, because here again, as I mentioned, we're not enterprise-ish, meaning some of the small and medium businesses are relying more on the trust. This is a trust-based implementation, so they really need to understand what approach are we going to use. And because of the season, and not only in this pandemic, but since last year, or since I think it's since 2016, without even Business Central launch yet, we're using the online meeting already for us to, of course, be cost effective in terms of deploying our people, which coming from the partner side. But now in this pandemic, it's gonna be more and more, of course, needed to use online meetings to do the project planning, to do the business process review. Then later I'll discuss that. All right. So this is just a disclaimer. Flash method, it's not one size fits all. Meaning, can or it can't be applicable to a particular industry, to a particular country, to a particular set of people that you have in your company, or even in the customer company. So it's not the answer to every old school way of doing Business Central implementation, but it's really targeted, and it really needs we really need to understand that there is a certain portion that we need to serve using this method. For clients who will go with the pure standard BC function, so disclaimer, it doesn't mean that this is pure standard, that you don't customize forms and reports or other add-ons or something like that, but this is gonna be fitted well to those client that wants to go with the pure standard Business Central function. It's not also applicable for all industry, again, as I mentioned, industries, and for all premium features like advanced manufacturing and service management. So just I cleared my statement. All right. So of course, before I go to the project implementation itself, we need to close a client first. So the three ultimate questions for us, three ultimate scoping question is, what industry are you? So right now, the reason why I put distribution, trade, and services, because this is the three industries that we tested it already. And modules, are you okay to implement the standard module? Is this company that you're going to be implemented with are okay with the standard module? Meaning there's no that the standard logic is not gonna be broken. Meaning if I do or if I do purchase quotation, then I want to convert that to PO, but I'm okay with that, and I don't need a purchase requisition, which Business Central doesn't have. Now, then I go with that. If they just need PQ or PO, something like that. So we need to understand that, okay, I'm okay with PQ converting to PO, and then later on posting to posted purchase invoices, something like that. So, and do you have 3 people minimum? So meaning we're asking if the client has really this 3 focused people to be with us, or to be with the partner like us, to really go with the project hand on hand. It's because 3 is the very optimal setup, because we need the project manager, a finance base or someone who has a background in accounting, and also later on somebody that can assist us in terms of like fixing their internet connection, or like testing their workstation. It's just like that. The good thing about cloud is because we don't need to like really set up everything, and if we are on the BC SaaS, we don't need to set up much more technical configuration. So that's why it's gonna be fast now. So when the customer answered yes, chosen distribution, the modules are okay, is gonna be, or she's gonna be using those standard features, and she or he has a minimum of 3 people in his or her team, then we are going to start the project. All right. So how? The three major component of the flash method is, number one, it's the master data. We need to be focused on this. Configuration and workshop, plus the opening balances, and it will be equal to go live. Meaning, what we're gonna do is to really focus on perfecting their master data coming from their legacy system, or even if they don't have a legacy system, by just like exporting using their Excel file, because most of the implementation here are something like that. The users or the customer doesn't have a system, zero system, so they just have an Excel file to monitor anything. Some are on QuickBooks, but there is a QuickBooks migration tools already inside Business Central as of today, and that's we tested that already. And configuration and workshop, because as implementation partner, what we really need to do is to dictate the phase, meaning this is the standard procedure, this is the configuration, this is how we do it, and we will do a workshop for that. So meaning there's a very minimal participation of the customer in terms of building the configuration of the whole Business Central that I'm going to be discussing deeply later. Plus opening balances, we need to make sure that the client or the customer really understand what are the opening balances, what are the open balances on their subsidiary ledger, and later on reviewing that for us to be able to explain that very well to them, that if this not going to be perfect, or not going to be uploaded accurately, then we cannot go live. So those three pillars of this flash method are really needed to be focused on while doing the implementation with the partner and the client. All right. So this is like of course derived from the sure step methodology, but I'm gonna be discussing like some tweaking later. So PMS project management training is the activities when we do the training. When are you requiring the requirements and configuration? We'll do the QA testing and the data migration. So for us, of course, you are all expert on Dynamics, NAV, and Business Central, and I think you can follow in terms of the sure step methodology. So I put something like this. So the legend is, if the yellow ones, or the, I don't know what color is this, it's gonna be a meeting or an activity with the partner and the client, or a consultant. Next is a consultant, meaning that's our part as a partner or as a consultant. So first phase that we're going to do is to project planning. I explain later the project planning process. Then we're going to do a solutions overview, which is, it's not a training, but part of that activity. It's like a training. It's not a training, but it's like a training. I'll explain later what is a solutions overview. Then we'll jump to data migrations. I'll explain later why. And we'll do the conduct solution workshop, which is a semi-training with some configuration processes inside of that. And we'll go to the conduct the user training, we'll go to the UAT, and of course we'll go live, then we close the project. I explain later why. So on the analysis part, as you can see, there is a project planning. This project planning session are conducted, of course, with joint exercise between the customer. It's very simple. What we want to do is to have a project plan. It's I mean, you know already what this project plan is, but here in the Philippines, as much as we want the customer, the small businesses, understand what the project plan is, it's very hard for us to do that. That's why we're gonna really need to do a template or to use a very, very easy to understand template for us to be able to give the project plan, follow the project plan, and check if that customer or client has our resources and put everything on the project plan. So project planning will cross all phases of the implementation where direct communication with the client on the progress of deliverables is required to maintain the defined go live date. So here in the Philippines, if you don't sign it, of course, it will not flourish, and we cannot charge for the customer. So the project plan is really needs to be very clear in terms of where are we going to charge and where are we going to do the sign off. After the project plan, we conduct solutions overview. So this is what we're going to do here is to provide the customer with an understanding of the applications out of the box. It's like a demo of the end-to-end, not only a demo, but really an end-to-end workshop, okay, for the user and for all the functionality in the Business Central. But it's gonna be more of on the industries that they pick. If distribution is gonna be their industry, meaning they do trade, they order indent transactions or goods from outside of the Philippines and distributing it here in the Philippines as their sales. So we don't need to discuss manufacturing. We don't need to discuss project services. So it's very, very, what we're going to be discussing on that is the standard, of course, procure to pay, sales to cash, warehousing activities, supply chain, meaning for the reordering point, some sort of that. And we do that for the whole day. So the demonstration should be detailed enough to educate the customer about the capabilities of solution. All right. So of course we use Kronos for some populated, but we won't we're not using Kronos anymore. If we have this distribution packages that can be loaded already with data, and we use that for our solutions overview. So the prerequisite, of course, the BC tenant is already of course provisioned, and the project plan is finalized. Then the output is, of course, project team, client and consultant have a shared understanding of the system. So meaning they're signing up for this one. Meaning, okay, you know already how Business Central can help your businesses, can solve your pain points. These are the standard functionalities that we're going to do. There's no customization. Are you sure with that? And if the customer say we're okay with that, then we have an understanding of what we're going to implement. Then we will jump on the next activity, which is going to be the data migration. Why we're doing the data migration? Because what we want to do is for us to be able to be really faster in terms of implementation is to get the legacy data, all right, or even the Excel data, and put that in the Business Central packages. Of course, you know that already because you're expert in Business Central. And the migration of master data will be limited to a single import of existing legacy data into Business Central. If there are fields, okay, if there are fields in Business Central that are not yet included, or they're not using that on their legacy data, we don't yet ask them for that. So meaning we want to focus on their legacy data because we don't want to give them too much stress answering all of the fields in Business Central. All right, for those tables, only fields where it's reasonably expected that the data will exist in the legacy application. The customer will be responsible for transferring the data from their legacy application, but there are some guidance that we're also providing. Care should be taken by the customer to ensure that they are mindful of the data types in each of the fields. That's why when we do the solutions overview, sometimes we also put there the master data discussion or the training as well. So again, as I mentioned, any supplementary data unknown to the legacy application will be added post-import later and generally after the provision of the training, where the required context will exist. All right. So the prerequisite of this is, of course, the business tenant, the master data package that was given to the customer, that was filled to the customer, and after this, we're gonna transmit the master data to Business Central via Excel upload, or the package as we know that already, configuration packages. So the design. So next is the conduct solution workshop, meaning this one, it's gonna be more on the configuration side of Business Central. So what we're doing uniquely with the other with other methodology is, um, what we're doing is doing the configuration on site together with the customer. So that's why it's a workshop. We don't do it on our office, or without the customer. We do it online together with the customer. It's an interactive question. We're determining the setup data and the master data, and how it will work, and also pure discussion and focus discussion on the financials module, because everything is driven by the finance module. That's why we're asking if a customer has an accountant, or has a person who can understand accounting, because it's going to be more important to them that they can see everything that will be inputted later on whatever module of Business Central will be on the financial statement and other reporting capabilities of Business Central. That's why it's very important that we check that every configuration, of course, you know that already, like those general posting setup, business, the product posting setup, those kind of setup are being discussed and being demoed to the clients already. So prerequisite of this, we need to upload the master data quickly and conducted the solutions overview. Output of this is, of course, configuration done. Before, of course, we don't create sandbox, but because Business Central has a free sandbox, so we do sandbox now, and of course to do or creating a training company inside the production already. And on the deployment side, so the purpose of this is to perform user training across the module. Of course, you know this already. I'm gonna do a fast a fast explanation for this. So the prerequisite of this, of course, the training company that we created, or a sandbox, training evaluation and online training manual, and output of this, user will be comfortable in executing all the key activities, especially for UAT, because UAT is gonna be long for them, for us, and the training evaluation form. Let me skip this. All right, so conduct UAT. This is very important part of the flash method. So we need to thoroughly test and set up the configuration of Business Central, which we had on the conduct solutions workshop. So technically, in the UAT, of course, it's very known to you that we need a customer-owned scenario and test script. Where issues are identified during the test, the implementation partner is responsible for addressing this, where changes to the original configuration is required. These changes need to be applied. Of course, you will ask me, what if there is like an additional requirements? We can discuss that later. But for us to be able to really make the system works for the client and use them on the 16th or the 21st day of the implementation, we need to really fast pace the UAT, or sorry, we need to be really focused on the UAT and fast pace other activities. So prerequisite of this is user training completed, training company, of course, created, or the sandbox, and test scripts. And the output of this is, of course, the go live certification that you really need to ask the client to sign, and any changes to configuration completed in the live. Meaning, whatever changes we've or whatever changes to the configuration with change here in the UAT part, we need to really, of course, list all of that and make sure that it's gonna be on the go live um, um, company or database later. So, or make a backup of that and upload that later on. But to be able to get the go live certification, the test scripts needs an score. Of course, you do it. You're expert on that. Any test script list or scoring sheet can be also done, and we're don't forget to, of course, ask the client to complete the go live certification for us to be able to go to the next step. So the go live, we've created some checklists. So of course, you know the go live already. What's gonna happen? We delete the training company. We system verification of everything. This permission set, user setup, and buyer setup records like the posting groups and the opening balances and entries. So first, the opening balance templates returned to the implementation partner by customer. Meaning, of course, they will give us the opening balances already that they've created or that they've answered. Opening balances uploaded by the implementation partner, meaning we will upload this opening balances. Opening balance test reports produced by the implementation partner and issued to the customer. So this is also an ongoing interaction between the customer and the partner. What we're gonna really need to do is to test all the reports and see that the posting are good, the entries are good, and we will send back the test reports, every test reports to the customer so they can review and approve it. Implementation partner to post opening all balances, the timing of uploading and posting, right, is of course the critical for all sub-ledgers, which are bank accounts, AR, AP, which is the customer and the vendor, the fixed asset and the inventory. All right. So implementation partner to product associated balance reports for the customer based on the balance imported, meaning sometimes you do the AR age trial balance. So we need to really check if that is working or all the opening balances are recorded. That document will also include the section for confirmation by the customer that the opening balance which have been posted match to the closing balance in the legacy application. So it's really very, very crucial to do that. So they won't go back. Of course, we won't forbid them to go back to the legacy system, but we are minimizing the relationship of the customer to their legacy system. So prerequisite, the go live certificate should be signed already at this moment, and the output of this is the checklist approved by the client, and there's no training company already on the production database. Okay, on the operation, you just need to close it. So again, you know this already that there's no outstanding issues to be resolved. Tasks are completed and support process will be needed to hand over to the client. And of course, the output of this is customer support. Now, um, some use case for distribution, this is very fast. Let's say, for example, this is the sample timeline. So as you can see, the effort or how we do the per phase activities that we've mentioned. So the project planning is very very few and very very minimal, and you can see the solutions overview is very minimal as well. And this one, the UAT, should be very focused, as I mentioned a while ago. This time we can really really lock in the customer to not to change mind in terms of like implementing the solution quickly and doing go live tomorrow, something like that, because the UAT is very important to us and to for us to get the sign off of each department that there's no problem happened and we're replicating what their legacy system plus the added features of Business Central was in place on that particular UAT and what they're gonna use on the go live. So investment effort. So customer, it's 20 days. This is not total, but this is an investment effort for both parties. So customer usually it's 20 days. 20 days, not mandates, but 20 days continuously working on the project, and 11 and a half days for the implementation partner, because of course there are like opening balances and data and master data templates that the customer needs to be filled out before we upload it and before we go to go live. So the actual days for distribution. So project planning, solutions overview, data migration. So as you can see, UAT is 4 and go live is 4. And it's total of 20 days. I think I think this is like some of the example, but we can really go dive next time, and I can share my my other documentation on my blog. But for now, because this is Flash, so I'm also quick to finish this. If you have question, and I will answer that. So if you want to know more about me, you can. Um, this is my Twitter account, and also this is my LinkedIn account. So follow me if you have time. So I can answer question now.
Thank you for that, Paul. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I will share the presentation. I'll give it to Ras later. I saw some questions here.
Can you share your blog that has that presentation on so that people can just share your blog site and then people
Yeah,
will be able
I'll
to
well right now I'm posting everything on LinkedIn since I'm
start? Yeah,
really fixing my blog. So when I became an MVP, I just fixed my Twitter account and my blog site, you know.
got it. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Yes, that will include my documentation for the three industries that I've mentioned: distribution, service. Yeah, that's the other one. Sorry, I forgot. And trade.
Okay.
How can we maintain the project? Can I answer this, Ras?
Of course, please go. Yeah, please feel free. Yes.
So how can we maintain project retention? So again, as I mentioned, when you do the flash methodology, you're really focusing on the standard capabilities of Business Central. Well, together with the customized reports that you can offer to the customer. Nowadays, again, as I mentioned on, on one of my podcast interviews, I'm trying to shift my all of my efforts in building this Power Automate and adaptive card combination going to Business Central, but still on going for that kind of solutions. But I mean, yeah, what happened? Wait, I'm gonna answer first the retention. Sorry. So the project retention, of course, is number one. You're offering a support, as you can see on my final slide or the on the operation side. I after turning over the go live, I issue a support certificate, and they need to send that. The support is not, of course, it's paid, so it means another contract for the customer, and to again to do the project retention, you need to offer a sticky services like power platform type of service, like of course dashboard like in Power BI, creating an apps in Power Apps. And I think it's gonna be announced on the virtual event, like the cohesiveness of Business Central to the common data services already. So there's a lot of items that we can really incorporate to the standard package of Business Central for us to be able to ensure the retention of the project. Answer the next one. What happened when customers starting request customization with not discussed during workshop? As I mentioned, we really need to force them to use the standard, because on the first part of the scoping and questioning and what we've arranged on the contract is they're gonna use the standard implementation. But of course, it depends on the client if they want to pay more. And again, the triple constraint of project management is a project, of course, time, scope, and budget. If that scope is going to be really changed, we need to, of course, increase time and increase the budget. Is there any documentation? Yes, there is a documentation gonna be created. I'm gonna post them. There's a template that you can use for the documentation. It's like in the sure step, we just like refurbish it and tweak it. So whatever documentation you have in sure step, we just like create something like that for us to be able to do the flash method. Is there any documentation needed, like show step methodology? Yeah. So I'm gonna be posting the documentation, the full documentation on how to start the Flash method on my LinkedIn blog. I promise it. After just give me like 2 to 3 days to like post it on LinkedIn. Okay. Maintain task-wise payment schedule, like payment term, task-wise. All right. So you were saying here like a time and material arrangement. This is from Manish Kumar. Um, am I right? Are you pertaining to a task-wise um, time and material payment schedule or something? Ano, if you're talking about, okay, if you're talking about so this is hard. So technically, I just did not put the commercial here because, of course, this is a community event. And well, in the Philippines, what we usually do is to create for example, for a distribution company, you have already the standard package for that. We don't do time in material for that. In time of material, when time and material arrangement for the customer was requested, you need to really charge for the 11 days. The only problem with that is you cannot manage the whole project, meaning you don't have the full control of that because customers sometimes will just like prolong the data migration, or sorry, the filling up of master of the template and some opening balances and also some other stuff that they needed to do. So you cannot finish the project faster if you're into time and material because the commitment of the customer. All right, they are committed if they paid for the whole package rather than paying you time and material because they can reschedule you every time. Okay, I think that's it, Raz.
Okay, yes. So obviously we've still got 20 minutes. Okay, here we go. So we go. Thanks, Paul, for your session. I'm happy to see someone thinking the same. So this is Mahmoud he's saying that he's finished a Business Central cloud implementation within 1 year for 1 years of data.
Wow, that's cool.
Days. It was a very big
It's
challenge.
really, yeah, it's really, it can be really done. Of course, we're all functional and technical and people here. The only problem sometimes is really on the project management side and forcing client to really follow our faces. But it can be done in Business Central nowadays. The system is very improved and can work well with this kind of implementation.
And Paul, have you noticed particular industry streams that pose a different kind of challenge when trying to proceed with these implementations? Have you noticed that?
Well, the well, to be honest, the only industry that I'm seeing that is not gearing towards this is I don't know, manufacturing, tall manufacturing. Maybe because the problem is I don't know if that's a functionality problem or more of the migration problem. Because sometimes they thought that they can go to FNO already. So more of the features problem for me. But I think in terms of what we're doing before in Dynamics NAV, it's still applicable on Business Central, even some manufacturing clients. It's just more of the messaging of Microsoft in terms of like this new approach on how to implement finance and operation as well. It's mixing to that.
Because what I've here we go. Manish says, how can we migrate project opening balance over the GOB?
All right, so so this is a functional question. I mean, all right. So meaning you're gonna use the project management features, right? The jobs.
Yeah, looks like it. Yeah.
Mhm. All right.
How can yeah.
So yeah. All right. So this is the issue with the cutoff, and of course there are the WIP, the work in progress account, some sort of that. What we're usually do in terms of doing that, to be honest, okay, to be honest, flash method, you need to extend that, all right? You need to extend that the days of flash method or put other activities there for you to be able to really migrate the jobs, because what we're doing on the service part is we're not using the job module, we're just using the resources for them to build something to their clients if they're a services company, or sometimes we don't use the jobs here in the Philippines, because of course it's really, you're right, this is very correct that it's gonna be hard to really migrate the opening balances of the open jobs in Business Central, or from NAB to Business Central, or from other applications that they have.
As you can see, Shilpi is asking, how would you compare this methodology with other methodologies on the market on a high level? What improvements have you made recently which you have introduced to the customer, and how was the response?
This is a good question. Actually, I'm not against like Scrum or other things, because all my development companies, we use Agile and Scrum. The only thing in the ERP world is, in fact, it's really on the small and medium businesses. The only thing with that is you need to be very careful and very, very tedious on checking every steps that you're doing. And I think in terms of the flash method or doing some implementation on the ERP for small business, I think right now, I don't know yet, but we did not try like a Scrum or Agile approach for that. I think in CRM it's working. There's a lot of courses that fitted on D365 CRM for that, but for an ERP project, we did not try Agile yet. But the good thing about how customer is responding to this is, of course, we're calling it the risk-free services, meaning we just have like 20 to 30 days for us to really prove that the Business Central implementation will really work. And on the second month, you can already use the system. So what really improves on that is the aspect that the customer is really feeling the system that they're investing, because it's flash, because they can use that on the second month, again based on the industry, and they don't need to wait for some like 6 months for them to be able to use the system. So it's really the number one, the return of investment, that they can feel it already. Number one, resolving their pain points inside with a in a quick possible manner. And number two, the time to deploy the solutions is very faster. So what they just need to do, if they have citizen developers there, is to extend that capabilities of Business Central through Power Platform.
So Fabrizio is asking, hi, how could we manage this with METH, Business Central Job Industry? Fabrizio, could you just elaborate further, please?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What is a MET? Sorry.
yeah. Oh, how do you manage this methodology with
Methodology.
Business
Okay, okay, got it.
Central Job Industry? Even that is still
Mm.
a bit confusing. Sorry, Fabrizio, could you elaborate further? It's still not very clear what you are alluding to there in your question. Thanks.
I could.
The job industry. Are you referring to recruitment? Are you referring to something different? Job suite. Oh, sorry, apologies. Right. So the job suite in the Business Central method.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
projects, the project
yeah.
service, yeah. Oh, okay. As I mentioned a while ago, well, to be honest, it's not really fitted for or we did not create yet a fitted or an added activities in Business Central to go with the jobs. Because number one, what we want to do is, of course, less modules that we will be exposing the clients, meaning we don't want to add to the standard, sorry, not standard, to the core module yet. Because if we extend it to jobs, I mean, jobs is a module that can not easily understand in one day. All right. So what we're doing is not to go to the jobs module, but to use or utilize the resources and putting that on the sales order for us to be able to charge services if they don't want to use item, or we do the non-inventoriable item or the service part on the item itself. But that's a good suggestion or idea later that we can improve that the methodology to fit to the jobs module.
And it's also important to mention that obviously not as you mentioned, Paul, not one size fits all, and
Yep.
obviously each project will have its own intricacies and challenges, I guess. So I guess you've created a formula which basically which kind of a bit like a Venn diagram. It will obviously fit most scenarios, but I guess there needs to be some kind of tweaking. So in order to accommodate, integration requirements and additional modules and things like that. So yes, so in short, as a summary, you mentioned, Paul, that the methodology is more focused purely on the finance implementation. Would you agree, or would you correct me if I'm wrong? Sorry.
All right. Well, it's more focused on the finance, but it can also serve like the warehousing. So because right now the warehousing part is on the essential, right? So meaning when we implement now the advanced warehousing side of Business Central before NAV is we don't need to ask the user to buy the extended or whatever pack they need to buy. So right now, if we're going to a distribution company, the warehousing capability of Business Central for us it's easy to understand because you just need to ask the right question for you to be able to really implement the advanced warehousing to them, like how complex the warehouse are they gonna use beans, are they gonna use this zoning, are they gonna use picking, so something like that. So if the customer is ready for that, meaning they have people to do it, sometimes we can add like a 0.5 days training or a half day training for them to be able to use the warehouse to supplement their core functionalities.
Great stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so anything else? Please, if there are great training for job modules in Business Central, please share. The Dynamics Learning Portal course or NAV has been removed. Okay.
I'll check, but there's a lot of resources on YouTube. I think those guys who's really into like doing some stuff in Business Central. They have a lot of but I think um even on the nav itself, we did not change. I mean, there's no drastic change in the nav jobs or project service or the jobs module between Business Central, so it's still the same. I mean, the core is still the same.
Okay there. So I hope that's answered that question related to lots of questions related to the jobs module, it looks like. So maybe for the next one we include some things. But yes, look, in terms of a flash methodology, I think that's great. I think just to kind of add some kind of insight into what you mentioned earlier about the different types of projects and implementation approaches. So it also depends on industry, right? So, for example, certain
Yes.
industries, for example, I work in the public sector industry, and in public sector government, Agile is a very important methodology that they are actively promoting. Now, that's not to say that Agile is the best, you know, because some people don't have the capacity they need to be able to implement within a shorter space of time. And so there's different industries, different customer bases that will have different requirements. For the public sector, what I can say is that they like to be highly involved in every aspect of the project implementation. And so they obviously run in sprints and deliver incrementally. But that's also based on budget as well, isn't it? That how much budget is available to implement the system. So it seems as though the Flash methodology seems to be definitely be the most cost-effective way, it seems, to physically have a solution. Seems to definitely be the quickest way. Because if you think about it, a sprint is normally 2 weeks, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you're literally delivering the project within less than a sprint. So that's, you can compete with that if you think about it. So I think from a customer perspective, they're definitely, I think it's also an interesting point, because what you could potentially do, you could potentially combine the Flash methodology with Agile. So you could potentially start off as Flash
Yeah.
and then add Agile afterwards, possibly, you know?
Agree. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of Agile and Scrum as well. So we it's just a matter of like how we really like construct it in a way that it's gonna be like still effective on checking those checklists that I mentioned, that we will not be able to forget that we need to do it first before we do this number three steps.
Excellent. Thank you so much once again. Look, that was a great session. That's a very it's a session that applies to everyone. You know, everyone who's involved in implementing. It's highly relevant. So thanks for sharing your expertise on insight into that, Paul. So once again, and it was a great pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you. I haven't actually met you yet, Paul, because the MVP summit
Yeah.
was, unfortunately, it was cancelled. You know, so but yes, I look forward to meeting you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Ras, and thank you for the 365 Saturday group. This is really my pleasure to make an make a topic here, because some of my topics are more of the APAC, on the APAC region, doing Power Platform as a sort of like CRM things in Business Central as well. But thank you, Ras, for inviting me. It's very good to share my knowledge on the other part of the globe as well.